I never said half those things. Confucius is really famous for his enlightened quotes. They're old, wise, and enrobed in an aura of mystery. But somehow, even after 2,500 years, people still find them relevant. We usually take this for granted. But if you stop and think about it, for example, if I say something, no one's going to remember what I said 5 minutes from now. Yet the wisdom from Confucius' thought seems to remain unaffected by the passage of time. Now, what makes Confucius's philosophy pertinent even today, or should I say especially today? Could it be that Confucius stumbled upon some principles that are so intricate to human nature and appeal to the most fundamental aspects of our beings? One of the core elements of his teachings is virtue. So that could be the first hint. Maybe beginning of a response. So let's dive in and see what really makes Confucius' quotes stand out of time. Hey everyone, today we will be talking about Confucianism and one of its pillar foundations, which is an ancient universal principle known as virtue. Now, you might have already heard that word and say, hey Jared, many religions talk about virtue. Does this categorize Confucius' thought as religion? Okay, so let's unravel that before we dive into what virtue is. The first thing to note is that there is no word in Chinese for Confucianism. Okay, the closest words are those used in Chinese are rújiā or rújiào. So rú is an old word that means scholar. Jia means school or family, and jiào can mean religion or teaching. This means that rújiā can be directly translated as scholar's school or scholar's family, or explained as school of thought. In other terms, scholarly thought. So what does the scholarly thought have to do with Confucius? Well, Confucius, who was called Kongzi in Chinese, was a famous teacher in the Zhou dynasty who wrote a book called Analects, 论语. He set a system of philosophy that later scholars such as Mencius, Mengzi, expanded upon. So Confucianism doesn't really belong to just Confucius. One way Confucius used to raise one's own standards and attain a more virtuous life was by studying the recommended texts. These books not only give a background into history and culture, they also provide instructions on morals and philosophies. Right? So doesn't that make them just a bunch of nerds? It's a little bit more intricate than that. In Chinese traditional philosophy, and this can be extended to Taoism, Buddhism, and traditional Chinese medicine, mind and matter are the same thing. Let me say that again. Mind and matter are the same thing. So we don't have this idea of philosophy as just kind of a, this is what I'm thinking about, and then matter, this is how things actually work. These are considered to be opposite sides of the same coin. Matter can affect the mind, and the mind can affect the matter. It's actually the same thing. That's how they looked at it. So, according to those principles, frequently studying virtuous texts filled the spirit with virtuous thoughts, which translates into virtuous actions. Mind and matter, same thing, which long-term transformed the scholar into a person of great virtue. So, hitting the books hard was the main way to cultivate oneself in Confucianism. China took studying hard so seriously that they developed the imperial exam system, where high government positions were given to the top test scorers. Even today, most Asian countries have a make-or-break university exam. The other term, rújiào, means scholar's religion, and so clearly qualifies Confucianism as a religion, right? Well, it's not that simple either. Jiào also means teaching, so in a sense, it is one aspect of a religion, but it lacks the codified rituals and strict established belief system around selected deities, the established temples, and all the hierarchical power structures that usually religions have. Confucius, though, was no atheist. But he also didn't worship a particular god. Instead, he often spoke of heaven, or tian, as a vague but powerful force that counted rights and wrongs, just like an umpire calls balls and strikes. And that would change the course of history to favor the virtuous. In his view, heaven, man, and nature were connected by the natural order. And it was by following that natural order in our daily lives, such as by having a good family, well-ordered country, and so on, that we connect deeply with heaven. Now, Confucian rituals are so important that they're almost religious, but still, Confucianism is more of a philosophy than a religion. So what does Confucianism really entail? It starts with the idea of a natural order in the universe. This order, being the perfection of the creation, has virtue inherently sewed into the deep fabric of matter that permeates all of the cosmos. If people strive to become virtuous, it means they conciliate their own behavior to heavenly order and naturally will benefit from all the good the universe has. In other words, heaven rewards virtue. This principle can then be applied to a broader sense, from personal life to family, community, or even the country, or even more. For example, if a ruler is virtuous, he will pass that on to his people and will have prosperity. If he's not virtuous, his country will suffer. The lack of virtue will then result in bad relations with its neighbors, wars, natural catastrophes, and so on. Because the absence of virtue means a deviation from natural order, which brings suffering and chaos. How does one become virtuous, and what exactly is virtue? In Chinese, 德 means inherent character, inner power, integrity, moral character, virtue, morality. All right, so many religions in Asia talk about this. Taoism has their understanding. Even Lao Tzu, his book is called 道德经. The second word is 德, or virtue. So the way, virtue, classic. Buddhism talks all about 德 as well, and all about different types of virtue. Confucianism talks about the 5 constant virtues, which in Chinese are called wǔcháng, literally 5 constants. These are 仁, which is kindness to your fellow man. So Confucius said, 己所不欲, 勿施于人. Do not do to others what you do not wish to be done to yourself. That's 仁. The second is 义, which means being righteous and doing the right thing. The third is 礼, which means to observe the proper rituals. The rites of Li are not rites in the Western concept of religious custom. Rather, Li embodies actions and behavior that guarantee the assimilation of oneself to the virtuous natural order, therefore maintaining a virtuous environment for everyone's benefit. It envelops the entire spectrum of interaction with humans, nature, and even material objects. Confucius includes in his discussions of Li such diverse topics as learning, drinking ceremonies, titles, mourning, and governance. The fourth, 智, wisdom, is the ability to see right from wrong and fair from unfair. Wisdom can be attained by sincere study of books containing wisdom and then assimilating oneself to those. The fifth is 信, or trustworthiness, which is a key aspect of a society based on mutual trust rather than domination by tyranny. Now, there are other virtues such as 孝, which means filial piety or respect for one's parents. But the ones we just went over are the 5 big ones, the 5 constants. Now that we've roughly established what virtue is, how does it remain relevant for us today? Confucius emphasized self-improvement as a key virtue. Confucius said, 三人行，必有我师焉，择其善者而从之，其不善者而改之。 So, if 3 of us are walking together, one of the others is my teacher, I will do the things that I find good in him and change in myself the things I find bad in him. This quote perfectly sums up the deep aspects of Confucius philosophy. It's not in the conflict and mutual domination that lies the inner improvement, but in deep introspection and one's own assimilation to natural order, which is virtuous. In other words, humility combined with scholarship is the Confucian way. Now, you can be the judge. Are those Confucius quotes an elaborate scheme to make the world better? Or could it be that maybe, just maybe, this ancient wisdom appeals to the principles that a lot of people consider beneficial because somehow, deep down inside, they resonate with something so deep and so intrinsically sewed into the very fabric that constitutes the very matter our bodies are made of, that their wisdom appears to us as a natural order which animates all of life in the universe.
Wow.
Anyways, Chinese culture is full of philosophies and stories that deal with such deep philosophical questions. The spirituality is deeply sewed into the fabric of ancient China. If you want to discover more about that in its pure artistic form, come see me at a Shenyuan show. Shenyuan, the world's premier classical Chinese dance company, and I am the MC. We tour from mid-December to mid-May every year. We tour all over the world. If you would like to buy tickets, I have left a link in the description below that has the booking fee waived. If we are not on tour while you watch this video, I welcome you to check out Shenyuan Creations or Shenyuan 作品, where you can see lots of other cultural, beautiful music, dance, all types of videos. All right, that's it for this week. See you guys next time. 再见.